from the crap part of Southern Illinois, the nice part of Eastern Virginia. It's the AU Wishbone podcast. John, how are you tonight? John, the season's about to start. I don't know if you've heard. It's almost football season.
Is it? I hadn't heard that, man. That's exciting.
You didn't know that?
Blame yourself.
Because everybody's talking about it. It's that time. What do you think?
I'm excited, man. One of my favorite times of the year is
finally
the opening of college football season and this long, extended Labor Day weekend, a cornucopia of college football, which I will enjoy every moment of.
You know, I end tonight where I began just a few months ago.
I end tonight where it all began for me. I still believe in a place called
college football.
It's pretty good.
It is. And we're going to talk about the first game coming up. Oh, it's good to be able to run the opening theme with the football element tacked onto it. I've been waiting months and months to do that. But first up, it's all screwed up from when I had a soundboard crash a minute ago. First up, of course, it's the Auburn Fun Meter. And I think you all know this week we're measuring how much fun it is to be an Auburn fan as the season 2 of the freeze regime gets ready to kick off. How are you feeling on a scale of 0 to 10?
I love the start of college football season. It makes me, every fan is optimistic. Teams going to be better, but also I'm going to get to enjoy a bunch of great college football. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'm going to say I'm like an 8 right now. Plus the recruiting stuff.
Yes. John is motioning upward. I'm going to say it's the possibility of hope, right? It's the possibility that we have hope.
I end tonight where it all began for me. I still believe in a place called hope.
Better known as...
I want you to put the word out there that we back up. Understand me? We back up.
That's it. That's what hope sounds like. We back up. And so, yeah, I think easily an 8. I may be touching on a 9 just because I want this season to start. I want to see our new players. I want to see the offense working better. I want to see all the things that we have been led to believe are possible, not inevitable, but possible. The audacity of hope. I was just watching Coach Freeze's press conference from, I guess, was either last night or earlier today. I'm not sure which.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it was really, I think I enjoyed it more than any press conference he's ever done because he has a good mix of here's what we're doing that should make us better combined with let's not go crazy. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the subtext of almost everything he says is we're trying to do this, but then there's this, and we're going to try to do this, but then there's this. Like he said, we're trying to teach the players to be better, but then you have to bear in mind you can't be mean to them because, I'm paraphrasing, because, he's like 10 years ago, you could have gone out there and said, this is horrible. You're messing up the whole team. What are you doing? So now you kind of have to stop and think about how you want to talk to them. Be a little bit more nice, and everything. I thought that was very interesting. So, that was a very enjoyable listen, was sitting there watching him do his press conference and had some interesting stuff to talk about there. So, yeah, I'm probably 8 to 9, somewhere in the 8 to 9 range. I'm pretty happy about it.
All right.
So before we get going on the preview for Alabama A&M, or as we like to call them, Alabama State.
Two different schools. Not the same team.
Not the same. There's Hornets and Bulldogs. They actually play each other in a game called, I want to say the Magic City Classic, or is that either there or they're one in Birmingham? They either play in Birmingham or Montgomery, and they play a game against each other. It's like the Little Iron Bowl, and I don't want to confuse them. So, but yet we've confused them all night. and last week. All right. So quick update about Jordan-Hare Stadium. I think this is relevant. Go ahead and put this up front. Is that they're going to make some changes to Jordan-Hare. One of the biggest changes is just that the student section has gotten so big now that they're actually expanding the student section up into 2 sections of the upper decks because there's higher enrollment, and then more students, bigger percentage of that enrollment is going to the games. So sections 101 and 102 of the upper decks are now going to be part of the student section. I asked my nephew, Alex, who graduated from Auburn a couple of years ago, and honestly, it was probably 6 or 7 now, and everything seems like yesterday to me when you get this old. Anyway, I asked him, he says, oh man, he says, since he left, he says, everybody goes to the games now. All the students, it used to not be everybody. He says they all go now. So it's just a huge thing. So they're going to expand up into the upper decks. I don't think I ever thought I would see that.
I didn't either. But also it's weird because like the student section's first come, first serve. So who's running into the upper decks? Are they cutting off the lower part at some point? Saying if you want to sit here, you got to go up there.
Look, you know what? That's a really good point. Because you know how for years, I don't know how many of our listeners know this. For years, people have complained about the huge empty seat section under the scoreboard, right? As long as I can remember. And that's part of the student section. And you and I know, because we were in the student section for a while, we know why that is, which is they have a fence around the student section. And if everybody crams into the good part, that leaves empty seats in the end zone. It doesn't mean people didn't come to the game. It doesn't mean that there's not enough people in the stadium to fill every seat. It means they cram into the good part of the student section to be together and leave all this empty space under the scoreboard. Now, I'm sure there have been plenty of games where there weren't, where they sold student tickets and then the students didn't come. That's a different thing. I'm talking about on games where you'd think it was sold out and every seat would be full. A lot of it is just where they're choosing to sit. So that's an excellent point you make, because now we may have 2 sections of the upper deck empty as they cram into the bottom part. Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't know. They probably need to make the student seats.
Or they tell the freshmen, you got to sit up there.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. So, well, we'll see, but that's pretty cool as long as they can work that out some way. Of course, we know that they're working on the inside of the north stands. And of course, what they really need to do is work on the outside of the north stands, because more than any other part of the stadium, the north stand's the part that I think looks the worst, right? That's the part of the lower bowl that sticks out toward Haley Center, where all the Tinker Toy metal framework is.
Metal girders, yes.
Yeah, been there since like the 40s, honestly. So probably since 49 in the early 50s, when they closed in front of the I think that was the open end when it was a horseshoe, and they finally closed that in, cutting it off from, isn't that Petrie Hall, that used to be the clubhouse, it used to be the dressing rooms, which is why Petrie is oriented the same as the stadium. You ever notice that? And now it's like last I checked, it was a geology building. It may be something different now. And I think the von Mises Institute was there until it moved over to business. Okay. And then there's other stuff going on. They're going to be putting in a new video board, smaller, but still humongous, in the north end. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I do think it's smart that they're thinking long-term about these north end improvements, where they're going to do things, but leave open not do anything that's to prevent them from doing these other things that we know they need to do in the long term in the north end zone. So
I love that the new small video board is still going to be the 6th largest in the SEC. That's the little one.
Junior.
Yeah, Junior Megatron. The other one still remains the biggest, which I think they should call it the J. Jacobs Memorial TV, but the J. Jacobs Memorial Scoreboard. I know he's not dead, but it's his thing. It's his baby.
R.I.P. Jay Jacobs. I think. Okay.
There it is. All right, and then there's also finally the thing. What we talked about this before, where they're having the seating like down on the field in the corners and like a little terrace type thing. And apparently, it was a success. They're going to go forward with it. So
success is relative to what
yeah.
your expectations were, and I think the sight lines, I'm sure, are going to be a big problem. So we'll see.
Gosh. Yeah, it's terrible. How can you see anything from down there? But all right. So anyway, that's what's going on with the stadium. That's plenty. All right, football. We know we got a game coming up. We're going to preview it in just a minute. But first, little recruiting information. We got a guy from up here in Illinois, John, and it was a big deal.
I think he's from somewhere like Oak Park or something, or is that closer to Chicago?
I'm going to say the rule for me is it's probably Chicago suburbs. You name it, and I just go, that's Chicago. It's almost never down here.
But one of the top defensive linemen, one of the top players in the 2025 class, Nate Marshall from Illinois, flipped from Michigan to Auburn. He was the highest rated commitment of the defending national champions and flipped to Auburn.
Unbelievable. And it's funny because not only that, I'm trying to think how to phrase this. Depending on which of the recruiting services you look at, he's now our highest recruit. Now, one of them has him like our third or fourth highest. It's amazing how much difference there is among the different, ESPN and 24/7 and On3 and all that. But one of them had him as now our highest over Malik Autry and whoever else. So, I mean, I don't know what to make of that when one says he's fifth and one says he's first. But, yeah, he goes – so, in other words, he goes from one service saying he's Michigan's highest rated recruit to another saying he's like our fifth highest. So, do with that what you will.
But a guy who's like a top 5 defensive lineman in the class, that's pretty good.
We're going to have – when I saw that, I texted my nephew. I said, we are building, just in this class alone, we are building an ungodly defense.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, think about it. If we pull in this kind of a defensive class just 2 of the 4 years over this cycle, or 3, I mean, this is a defense getting up to, what would you compare it to? I don't know if we can go to 88 because that was just elite level. That was the elite level defense of all time. But
we'll have the talent to be a top 5 defense in the country if we keep recruiting at this pace. We'll have the ability to do whatever we want to do in defense. So.
Yeah, we're bringing in defense, and it's defensive line. We've talked over and over what separates the SEC from everybody else is having those difference makers on the defensive line. These 300 and something pound guys that can move like they're 200 pounds.
Yes.
That's other conferences don't get those. And that's how we've, historically have done things like beat Oregon. Like everybody in the SEC beats Oregon when they were at their height. Why? Because for all their vaunted offense that can tear up a Pac-12 or a Big Ten defense, they couldn't do anything against Nick Fairley, for example. That's the difference.
That's it.
LSU did them the same way. Several teams did them the same way, right? So that's huge. That is so good. That is so good. And then we may be seeing Deuce Knight, right? He's coming down to watch the game in person. It's not over.
He'll be in Auburn for a visit on the August 31st, and a lot of people feel like there's a chance he will commit at that point.
You don't come down to watch an Auburn game in person at the beginning of the new season that you're committing in if you're planning to stay in Notre Dame, do you? Maybe you
Probably not.
It just seems, I don't know. It starts to seem a little bit like you're not as interested in coming to Notre Dame as maybe as they thought you were.
The Magic 8 Ball says signs point in Auburn's direction.
And of course, the rumors are that if he flips, then we may flip some other people.
That's right.
And first you thought it was Christmas, and suddenly you realize. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Very much.
We still got some injured players. Austin Keys and Keontae Scott, I heard Coach Freeze talking about just now, in terms of he said that the medical people list them as probable. And he said, well, I got to see it with my own eyes, basically. He said, I haven't seen them do anything. I got to see them do something before I can, agree with that assessment. So I don't know about Lambert Smith, but the throwed roll, but we'll see.
He was banged up in camp, but it seems to like the last week or two seems to have been full speed in practice. So that would maybe be okay. But the other two, I think we're being careful with, and I wouldn't shock me if they're not 100% on Saturday, that they're like, hey, sit it out.
Yes. I mean, we don't want to take Alabama A&M for granted, but if you were going to have a game that you could sit a couple of guys out and not feel like, oh no, now we're going to lose, this might be the one, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Just saying. And by the way, Keandre Lambert Smith is now officially throwed roll.
Why?
That is my nickname for him. Lambert.
Okay.
Home of the throwed roll, John. Have you not had a throwed roll lately?
No, they missed me. They threw and I dodged. So.
He ducked and roll hit Denise upside the head. That would not go over well. That would not go over well.
Nope.
What's going on with the offensive line? The left side of the offensive line, they're playing musical chairs down there. What's up with that?
I mean, I think the guy we got is the left tackle from Mississippi State is not had a great camp, and I think they're not completely sold on him. And so now they're kind of trying out other guys at tackle and looking at him at guard, and do we play somebody else at guard? So I'm just going to say it's something to keep your eye on. And I think the offensive line will be able to run block no matter what. But this is one where when we play better teams, I'll be watching the pass blocking. So
yeah. All right. So let me run through a couple of thoughts about it, and you tell me if I'm in the ballpark. Between what the coach specifically said about that position and that player, and then what he has said about the team overall, the impression that I've gotten is that he's physically there, but he's not hitting the assignments all the time, right? Because Freeze was saying something along the lines of, we'll run a play and everybody will have it right except one guy, and that messes up the play, and we got to get that figured out. We can't have that happen. And I'm getting a picture that maybe this guy, like you said, maybe he can run block and run over somebody, but he's having a little trouble with the more sophisticated aspects of pass blocking. Is that more?
Well, but I think it's maybe just an offense and a technique thing. He was for years in the Mike Leach air raid system, but they kind of start a little bit off the line and basically go straight into pass blocking. And don't do any run blocking, basically. So it's a different kind of deal. And last year they had a different offense, but a little bit of a weirder offense for them. And so I think it may be just that thing where it's new, but we'll see.
All right, Alabama State. We are to it. Here it is.
We did it again.
Yeah, you got to stop that. I read what's on the screen, John.
Van stands in front of the teleprompter, and I just feed it to him.
All right, Alabama A&M. No disrespect, man. This is going to go up on their locker room wall, isn't it? A couple of Auburn knucklehead podcasters kept calling us the wrong school. It's like when Mississippi State got in the Final Four, and they got given hats that said Mississippi on them. Remember that? That didn't go over well.
It did not.
All right. So it is Alabama A&M game week. We will play them at 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Plus. which is good luck getting that, especially me out at Dragon Con trying to.
I was going to say, not your regular ESPN. If you don't, you have to be paying for ESPN Plus. It's a separate extra deal. My suggestion for people, if you don't have ESPN Plus already, is Auburn Radio Network. You can get the broadcast online, the radio broadcast on your phone or whatever for free. It's a great app.
That's a good point. It just dawned on me. I've been trying to figure out how I was going to make. I was just thinking how I was going to miss half the game, but I haven't been converting to Eastern, so I have to do my huge trivia tournament that I host every year and have for the last 20 something years from 7 to 8, but it's Eastern time. So the game starts at 7:30 Eastern. So I'm only going to miss the first 30 minutes plus however long it takes me to get back to the hotel or to a sports bar with Mira, they'll let Mira in, or wherever we end up, with the TV. Maybe honestly in the lobby of the Hyatt might be the quickest, best place to go. And there's nothing like watching and this is something I've done for over 20 years, John. There's nothing like watching the first Auburn game of the season with a bunch of stormtroopers, Klingons, and Marvel superheroes.
They're in.
Yeah. They're watching the football like anybody. It's amazing. You go down to you go in on Saturday night to the bar in the lobby of the Hyatt Regency Atlanta, and it's football on all the TVs, and it's stormtroopers, Klingons, superheroes, and scantily clad elf girls like every freaking where you see watching the games and drinking and partying, and it's awesome. It is a joy. So yeah, if I haven't made that clear, this is Dragon Con weekend as always, and I will be with Mira over there. So come on out, by the way, if you're in Atlanta for the Alabama Clemson, or you're an Auburn guy or a gal and you're out and about, come on by. Get you a one-day pass. It's a lot of fun. We will be in the Mart 2 building. There's 5 giant hotels that are Dragon Con hotels, but there's also buildings for like the dealer's room, where they sell stuff and all. And Jared and I will have tables, and Alan Porter will have, and Kathy will be up on the 4th floor of the Mart 2 building. And there's a giant mural on the wall that says Comics and Pop Artist Alley. We'll be in there. Yeah. Here's the crew you'll always find back there. I'm on the end cap on the corner. And then to my left is Jared. And then to his left will be Alan. And then Kathy's always there helping Jared usually. She helps me a little bit, but she's mostly there to help Jared. And then Mira will be there helping me and probably underneath the table with her laptop most of the weekend like she usually does. Anyway, all right. So we'll be watching the games as best we can. So Alabama A&M, Saturday, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. So try to figure out how to get the channel if you can't. And it is a historically black college or university, a 1AA school. Auburn is a prohibitive favorite. Yes, I haven't seen the line, but I mean,
I looked at some advanced stat projections earlier today. It was like 55.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was Alabama A&M or Alabama State, but remember in our 2012 year that we went 3-9, we still crushed one of them. So you should be able to just roll the helmets out there and win. It's not like Jacksonville where they're going to, scare you to death. Hopefully, knock on wood, hopefully not. So before we get into what Auburn needs to do in this game, I think I need to play it.
Hit it.
Alabama A&M Bulldogs Hate Week 2024.
It might have been funnier if we kept saying Alabama State and we didn't realize it until you played the sound clip and then we heard Alabama.
I know. I'd be sitting here wondering, did I mess up the sound clip after all this time? Just now finding it out. So, can anybody guess where I got that little audio clip at the very end of the guy yelling, "Can somebody shut this dog up?"
I don't know.
I think that's from The Thing. I think that was Kurt Russell when the dogs are going crazy because the monster's locked in with them. That looks like a dog, but starts turning into a giant werewolf spider thing or whatever. That's a great movie. I just rewatched it. The 1982 John Carpenter's The Thing. Oh, it's a classic. All right. So what's our goal? What do we do to accomplish this game, John?
Well, our game is our goals for the game are much like a 1982 John Carpenter movie. Just have fun out there.
It could be scary for some people, but
be
just
scary for the opponent, maybe, but just have fun out there. I think the big thing is fans are gonna be excited. We got a lot of young players. We need to get everybody in the game. We need to jump out to a big lead. We can play all the freshmen, get them all plenty of snaps. I think we need to play backups at quarterback, at defensive back, offensive line. We need to get all those guys some snaps, and I think we will in this game. I think you see all the true freshmen. You're gonna need your numerical roster in this game. Is all I'm saying. And the big thing is we want to come out of it, with make some plays, get fans excited, but also nobody injured. That's my goal. So.
Yeah, no injuries would be really good, and I agree. Yeah, I think just letting the players, because we got a lot of freshmen, just let them play a little bit. And did you notice that I think it was last Saturday they actually went through the whole routine of the Cal game, right? Because our other games are the 6:30 type games, but Coach Freeze was pointing out that a lot of the players on this team have never played an afternoon football game. They're used to Friday night lights.
That's it.
So he was saying how they had to they went through the whole motions of everything that you would do for a 2:00 type game, just to give them a little experience with it before they actually did it. Because the last thing we want to do, John, is lose to Cal.
Amen to that.
That would be catastrophic. And let's just bear in mind, last year we almost did. We kind of take for granted that we beat Cal last year, but
that was by the hair of our chinny chin chin in that game.
It was. So, I don't know if we're assuming that they're not any better and we are. Plus, we're at home.
I'm mainly assuming that we're at home, but also that we're better.
I think they're probably not necessarily much better. Hopefully, I think we are better, and we're at home. And when you combine all those factors together, hopefully we'll win, and hopefully we'll win a little more comfortably than last year. But take nothing for granted.
No. And in this particular game this weekend, as we prepare for Cal, we don't need to show anything in the Alabama A&M game. We're going to line up and run the ball, but we don't need to, if we have some stuff laid up, some good RPOs and stuff, we don't need to show them in this game. We will play it close to the vest and keep all that stuff for the next few weeks.
Our offensive and defensive schemes will be like the Frosty you can't ever get at Wendy's because they're always doing the seasonal crap. It will be vanilla.
Oh,
they will. I like a vanilla Frosty. You can't ever get them anymore because they're always got the pumpkin or the peach, this, that, or the other. Yeah, whatever. Just give me a vanilla Frosty, man. Anyway. All right. So what's the deal with Mr. Johnny Dent here?
So again, I want to thank Mr. Johnny Dent, who has been secretly at work in his lab coming up with another diabolical thing. And so what he's been working on is Hate Week videos, and we've seen a demo and it's pretty exciting, and I think you're going to like it. So stay tuned for that. And thank you basically for making it happen.
Yeah. Basically John took the audio and has been farming out some help to get them turned into actual little mini movie type things. So that's pretty cool.
I think you're going to like it.
Pretty cool. All right. I wanted to ask you one other thing as we get through the talking about the first game. So I watched the Florida State Georgia Tech. I got to stop and laugh for a minute.
So good. So good.
I don't think anybody saw that coming except that one Irish dude on game day. But, man, that was fun. That was fun. And, by the way, in that game, Florida State had 100 rushing yards in the whole game. I think they had 80 of that on the first drive and then rushed for 20 yards the whole rest of the game. Talk about adjusting.
Pretty good.
But anyway, in that game, the Georgia Tech quarterback particularly kept having to like put his hands up to the holes in his helmet so he could hear. It looked like he was having a horrible headache or about to turn into the Hulk or something. And then they were saying that it wasn't just that he couldn't hear the radio. It was very disruptive to him because he's trying to communicate with his teammates while the coaches are communicating with him. And it was like he's trying to, it's like when you're trying to talk to somebody and somebody's talking to you in the other ear.
Well, and this is where this is a new thing. And this is where you hope Auburn has practiced this a lot, because the play clock's running. We got to call play. It cuts off at a certain point, but also they want the offense to go fast. They have to communicate the play, and then he has to communicate to the other players, but they can still be talking. And so it's got to be one of the things of like, I can't be telling the other players what the play is. So the coaches need to be brief. Boom, boom,
concise.
boom.
Brief and concise.
I think the other thing is that you're going to see in college football, not just at Auburn, but other places, is it cuts off at like 15 seconds left on the play clock. If the defense lines up before that, the coaches may go, hey, watch this, that kind of thing. So.
Well, and if the defenses are smart, they'll change formation after 15 seconds are left.
That's right.
And now the quarterback it's on the quarterback, no help.
Mm-hmm.
I like that it cuts off. I don't want them yapping in his ears right up until they snap the ball.
No, that's not fair.
But by the same token, it is, I don't know. It's just going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Again, they've had it in the NFL for a long time. It's one of those things that started out like in the USFL or the WLAF ages ago. But I'm just wanting to see what happens when if the Georgia Tech quarterback was having trouble hearing it and communicating in front of a crowd in Dublin, Ireland, how's it going to go during the middle of the Iron Bowl or during the middle of the Georgia game? Or
I think those are great questions, and I think it's going to be interesting to see. And if I was a team, I might have some hand signals and posters in the back pocket as a
yes. Oh, 100%. Yes.
If it's you have technical problems, but also like if the guy just can't hear because the crowd's too loud.
Mm-hmm. Well, Coach Freeze did say two things about it. He said, number one, the whole thing quit working on them when they were practicing yesterday. He said, I hope they got that fixed because that's not going to work in the game. And then number two, he said he's carrying around. He said he felt, what did he say? He felt like a policeman with a giant belt with all the stuff on it, having to carry around the communications equipment and everything. So I hope it doesn't cause cancer. Having all this communication stuff strapped onto you for 3 hours.
It's just a radio, but it's extra stuff you got to worry about. And they're always going to have multiple communications devices, like one headset and channel for the coaches and another one for the quarterback.
That's right. We have a fantasy Formula One update. We did have the Netherlands Grand Prix, but I'm going to save that because I don't have it handy right now. But it was a big McLaren day. Lando Norris won. Max finished second. So if Lando can just keep doing that the rest of the season, we might have a competition at the end. We'll see, but we may get back to that later, maybe not. We got to thank the patrons. We do not do ads on this program. We rely entirely on our listeners, and we thank them one at a time. But it's one of the more entertaining parts of the program in many people's opinions. So if you all will bear with me for one moment, because I am logged in for the Babylon 5 show. Whoops. John, entertain the folks. Do some
while
juggling.
Van is pulling this up. We did have a number of patrons ask us about a college football pick'em.
Oh yeah.
I'm attempting to throw something together that we could do collectively.
For the regular season, is that it?
Yeah, a regular season SEC only.
Okay. So
I found a site that I think will work pretty well, and we'll try and get that out to the patrons the next day or two.
Yeah, I like the parameters that you just named. That would work.
We're gonna do SEC only, and just pick the games, not against the spread or weighted or any of that kind of stuff. So
Uh-oh. So the way that I do this is I can't put it in the right order. It's not showing me. So what's going on here is the Patreon list of our patrons is on their website that I can access, and I have it to only show the name and the current tier, and then I say rank by current tier. That way I thank the patrons pretty much top to bottom in terms of how much they support the show. But when the column gets so wide, right, when the names are all full, it pushes the other column off to the right. It's actually pushed it so far now, I can't access the column that'll let me put them in the right order. So I'm not quite sure how I can do this.
Are they alphabetical or something? I mean, you can just kind of roll.
Yeah,
with
they're currently in just sort of. I'm not sure what order they're in right now. Let me try taking it off. Sorry, this is not the greatest radio ever, but I can't access that. So, all right, I'll try to figure out in the future what's going on. But for tonight, just to move us along, I'm just going to do these in these sort of random order that it's in. Now, I do know that I start with the great Samuel Salvatore, who always reminds us that
Tonight's forecast, a freeze is coming.
with pearl white snow. And then in just sort of a random order, I'm going to thank, here we go, Antoine Morris. This is going to be kind of neat, actually, to get a different order than we usually have. Antoine Morris, CT Tiger. Walt heard about an emperor who didn't care where he stayed while traveling. They called him Emperor Just Any Inn. I love this because he incorporated something I had said like a while back. Plus, there you go. Wade Ward, Auburn football's Elvis, Mandy Thompson, Chad McDowell, Steve Bailey, Harry Zager, Philip Martin, David W.D.E. Simmons Esquire is a workers' comp defense attorney for
Jones Barbecue Foot Massage.
It does feel weird to go in this order, doesn't it? It's like a whole different thing. Woody the Jag, New York Tiger is looking forward to judge home runs interrupting college football games. Go Yanks, War Eagle, and beat Bama A&M. Amen to that. Melissa Blackstone, Bill Weathers, David D, Tiger, Evil, HR Director, and official toe licker. Oh, why you got to do this to me, Tiger?
Jones Barbecue Foot Massage.
I'm not saying the rest. I'm sorry. I've said it before. I'm not saying it again. What is the loneliest bayou in Louisiana? By yourself.
Oh, ow.
Good gosh. Some of these folks that come up with these dad jokes, they are
Smoke weed every day.
there is no doubt about it. Jim McCrory, Luther and Kelly Ottaway. Man, the order is just, there's like a natural rhythm when I've done these for months and years. And
You
it's
got it
all
down,
out of,
and it's throwing you all off. I'm sorry.
it's like singing a song with the lyrics out of order. It really is. It's like singing a song. It's like singing the 12 days of Christmas and starting with 11 and then doing 4 and then doing 9 and then doing 12. And it's really odd. Luther and Kelly Ottaway, Tim Sauls, Daniel Witten, the Slinka family. I'm only contributing for the dad jokes. I'm going to give you this one. There you go. Robo Gus, we
gotta get better at celebrating.
Alex Browns, Dr. Crackham, Paul Miles, Auburn Blue, Chris Braun, Rich Hammett, Corey Smyer. It's a crazy world. Thanks for helping me stay sane. I'll buy this for $1. In-home Hugh, Elizabeth Donald, JT Jarhead. When the Knowles lost in Dublin, did they give their playoff hopes an Irish goodbye? I think so. I saw a terrible image on Twitter. And I'll repeat it only because I also used this exact same line ages ago when Auburn played Louisiana Monroe, and I worked at the bookstore. I can't remember if that was when you worked there too, but somebody had a satellite picture of the Atlantic Ocean, and they drew a line from Dublin back to Florida, and it said Trail of Tears Part 2. Oh, it's so bad, and I'm so ashamed. But oh, that's good. Bobby Polite. Hey, Bobby. It's about damn time. I guess that could mean a lot of things, including football season. Rusty Owens, Charles Mooney, Michael Kirshner, Ben Regas, Eric Morgan, Trombone Tiger, MVP, Captivating Kathy Bright.
You don't have any friends.
Except 70,000 of them at Dragon Con this weekend, Kathy. Algo Rhythm and Blues, Bob WDE Salmons Esquire, a.k.a. 76 Tigers Sleazy Shyster Farr.
Jones barbecue foot massage.
We got 3 of those on the first page. That's interesting. Boris the Tiger. What? Boris is not coming with me to Dragon Con or to Atlanta or anything. He's going to stay here, and I think that he and my wife have some nacho and chicken finger festivities going on during the game. So I hope they have a good time without me.
It's a security protocol. You can't send him down there without an escort.
Well, as my wife likes to remind me, he's afraid he might not come back and have to be shipped in a box again. Oh, man. And thanks again to your mom and dad for sending Boris back in a nice box full of Auburn gear. That was really cool. When I left him down there. Tim Pittman, Sasquatch. Man, this is so out of order. Ben Bloodworth, Chris Hilton, Sarah Hines, Bradley Blackman, Anonymous. Okay, there's an Anonymous. WDE Richie is ready for some Auburn football. Amen, brother. Russell Souther, Paul Bankson, Chris and Clinton Stewart, Blake Heron, William Morgan, Kevin Mahan, Stephen Houston, Gary Grant, a.k.a. AU fan at KSC. When Carroll believes he's discerned Hugh Freeze's strategy for Saturday. I may have received a sound clip that I didn't know I was getting. I don't. When I just let you down all the time because you're playing 3-dimensional chess and I'm just a checkers player here. I apologize. Wynn's got to straighten me out and get me squared away here. John Otsuki, I'm sure it was brilliant. I'm just too stupid to figure it out. John Otsuki, H-Town Danny, Papa Todd, Rhodesian Mudflap, Daniel Odom, you falling up, Matt Flowers, Sports Illustrated's Auburn Elvis, Brandon Smith, Royce Alvarez, Trevor Johnson, David Smiley Lane Middleton, Winston Body, Construction Tiger, Willie Carden, Theodore Gary, Carl Von Drunker, Shannon Butson, and then, of course, I can't believe we've gone this far and haven't heard the...
I'm afraid that my condition has left me cold to your pleas of mercy.
You can't be serious, man.
Let's see. Darren Pyle, Chris Como, Mickey Beach, Susan Trewick, Spanky. I'm at the bottom of this list. Well, Spanky, you're at the bottom of this list because I can't access the column control. That's why you're at the bottom of this list. But also because
God Wilson!
Maybe God willed the column control.
That's right. That's maybe. Yeah, you may be on something. Shane Bailey, Jacob and Robin Fleming, Ben Amos. It's here. It's here. Football is finally here. War Eagle. Yeah, that feels good. John, is there anything on earth that says Auburn football? Maybe Aubie. Other than Aubie, is there anything on earth that says Auburn football more than? Come on. Come on.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. Please clap.
That's it. It's so good. I mean, we've gone months now with no college football, but
my fellow Americans, our long national nightmare is over.
That's right.
Amen.
All right. Stephen Thompson, Ruth and Darren Sutherland.
I thought you were done.
No, Patrick. See, that's the thing. It messes with your mind, doesn't it? It messes with your mind. Patrick Williams reminds us.
Whether you like it or not, learn to love it because it's the best thing going today.
Woo! All right. And finally, Ann Pridgeon, Rob Morgan, Weagle Weagle, Wardam Eagle, James Taylor, there's Samuel, Brant Rumble, Justin Bean, Clay Henson, Steve Trawick, Logan Chilton demands Rule Britannia comes back because...
Wilson!
Yeah. No one fights like Gaston. Kenneth Britt Rains points out that the barbecue. Now, I don't know. Did the barbecue fail him for the
You have failed me for the last time.
We don't know yet. We don't know. AKA Auburn Dad for Life. And put a bookmark here, John. I want to ask you about the Oklahoma prediction. Catherine England, Tony Perry, a few more patrons left. Alex Wynn, Josh Teal, David Simpson, Earl Ricks, Timothy, Steve Harlan, Russell Milling, Dan Thompson, Richard Stevens, Randall Walker, Wes Atkinson, Chris Thrash, Phil Amthor. Why can't melons get married? Because they can't elope. Yeah. Oh, John is suffering. John is suffering.
Oh,
Auburn.
Model to thy inward greatness.
Rich Reimer, Joey Miller, and Mark Squire, plus our one-time anonymous donors. We thank you all. www.auwishbone.com. John, we just got through the most cockamamie, upside down, put them in a hat and shake it up list we've ever done.
My opinion is it wasn't as good as the one where you did it a cappella. I think the listeners and I want more of that.
The one where I did all the sound effects myself?
Yes.
Oh, God. I had no voice left when that was over.
But it was great.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, we got to figure out how to get the thing back in the right order now, because that ain't going to fly. We got people that support this show to a great magnitude that we are forever indebted to, and they don't need to be coming on page 3. I mean, I appreciate the page 3ers as much as anybody. I appreciate all of our patrons. We love you, and we wouldn't be here without you. But I don't like putting the people that ought to be at the beginning toward the end. So we got to figure that out. I got to get on the blower to Patreon and say, look, man, come on, man. This is just wrong. That's right. All right. Guess the Game is on hiatus. Didn't you have a note from Jared or something about that?
I do have a note from Jared about that. So here's a message to our listeners from Jared. Please let the listeners know that due to DragonCon preparation and execution, there will be no Guess the Game this week or next week. And let them know I'm out of suggestions and they may need to send them to @YardSaleArtist on X, Facebook, or Instagram, or email Jared, JARROD, @theyardsaleartist.com. And Guess the Game will be on hold during the season once again. And Jared will return in January with more Guess the Game. So please take your time over the season to send him some. He says, I'll return in January after Auburn's inevitable national championship victory.
Good call. Well said. Please clap. I want to thank Jared, too, by the way, since we're talking about it, because he's talking about having to get ready for DragonCon. And listen, believe me, not only does Jared have to get himself ready, this is how good Jared is, okay? Because Mira and I get on a plane and we can only carry our suitcases. I have books that I'm going to sell at DragonCon shipped from the publisher straight to Jared, and he puts them in his little warehouse. And when DragonCon rolls around, he loads them in with his stuff and drives the whole thing over to DragonCon. And not only that, he usually gets there early enough because we're flying in at night, after Mira's out of school. He usually gets there so early, he already brought it all in and set it there on my table. All I have to do is just set it up. So I am eternally indebted to him. And he and I always joke around, but I just want to say, in real non-joking, Jared, you have no idea how much I appreciate what you do every year. It is, and I know Kathy helps out a ton too, and you guys are great, and I really, really appreciate it. So just want to put that out there. And now, coming up, we have listener questions and around the SEC. But first, It's our weekly look at the miscreants, morons, and ne'er-do-wells who collectively constitute this week's worst coaches in the world. I do all that off the cuff, John. There it is. This week I've got two entries. Let me crank down the box a little bit. All right. So this week I got two entries. One, Mike Norvell, you got Tubervilled. Florida State had the ball, I want to say, one time in the last 21 minutes of the game. That is a 2006 South Carolina Tubervillification. Let it be known that henceforth, when the other team holds the ball and doesn't even let you on the field for like an entire quarter, that is a Tubervillification. And that is how you lost to Georgia Tech.
Tubervillian?
It was Tubervillian. The Tubervillification was Tubervillian. All right. And the other entry this week is every Florida coach since Urban Meyer. And you know what? Heck, let's throw in for other reasons, Urban Meyer too. Because Florida is not only stinking up what used to be the SEC East, they have the longest active streak without a 1,000-yard rusher. 2015 is the last time Florida had a 1,000-yard rusher with Kelvin Taylor. I don't even remember Kelvin Taylor. So Auburn still holds the record for the most consecutive seasons with 1,000-yard rushers, with 9 from 2009 through 2017. And we were able to get 1,000 yards out of some dubious backs here and there during that run, and some great ones. But Florida, you got to get your act together, and I don't know that it's going to happen this year. Mike Norvell and every Florida coach since Steve Spurrier, you are this week's worst coaches in the world. All right. And now.
Thank you. Order. Questions to the Prime Minister.
It's time for listener questions. Dun, 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 on the AU Wishbone podcast.
I still love the fact that Mira just ad-libbed the da when she was like 5 and did that, or 4 or something. Genius. Child's a genius.
She's got it. She ought to have her own podcast.
Didn't get it from me. Got it from Mama. Thank goodness. All right. What's in the mailbag this week?
All right. First question is from Richie Butler, who says, what would this team have looked like if we had hired Freeze after Gus?
Ooh. But see, I know it is a good question, isn't it? Oh, man. But that would have been strange, though, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. Going from Gus to Freeze is like, we used to call Freeze Gus with a passing tree. Well, clearly he was a lot more going on than that. It seems like certainly it's Gus, but with recruiting, a little more recruiting. Gus didn't recruit terrible, but
well, I mean, I would say to this point, a lot more recruiting, right? I mean, we got to sign this class, but
yes, definitely. Yeah, I mean, you'd think that maybe if there's a lot of unknowns, but if we were able to start recruiting this well in 2020, going into the 2021 season, 2022 would have been even better, and last year would have been maybe a 10-2 type season.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, like, if the question is like, where would we be at year 4 of a Freeze thing? The answer is we'd be in a further down the road with higher expectations and all that kind of stuff. I wonder also, like, if the going through the potato famine made us all a little more desperate. Because here's the other thing. I think hiring Freeze after Potato, we've talked about this with the athletic director, the boosters, everybody in sync and coming together. I don't think that would have happened right after Gus. I don't think we were ready for it. I don't think it was possible.
Nope.
I don't think it could have happened. So I don't think things would be going as well because I think all of those things are a result of that alignment, and I don't think it would have been there. So I think it would have been a little more fractious. And also, I think, we went through the bad times and to get to now to start building back up again. So I don't know.
People need to understand it seems like we have a good head coach right now, but you also need to understand we have a good president of the university and we have a good athletic director.
Yep.
And when you got all three of those working, it's a lot better than when only one of them is right. All right. What else we got?
So, friend of the podcast, Samuel Salvatore, sent us a picture where he was doing some construction work at the Georgia baseball stadium. And he said, "Hello, guys at War Eagle. I need it to be known as the man who planted Auburn on the Georgia campus. The Georgia patrol staff gave me a warning ticket with the citation saying Auburn hat on dashboard, go Dogs. So I decided to take the Auburn decal off of my hard hat and put it in the concrete in one of the foundations of Foley Field. Georgia baseball will now have to stand over an Auburn AU for the rest of their lives. War damn Eagles, Sam Salvatore."
I just got to say,
please clap.
That's being in the right place at the right time with the right tools and getting the job done. And he sent us pictures that he
sent us pictures. There was some rebar he was setting up under there before they put the concrete in, and he put the sticker on it, and then they poured the concrete over it. And they'll never get that out of there. It's like Jimmy Hoffa under that stadium.
Jimmy Hoffa. That's so good. Oh, I got to tell you, that is awesome. I fire off a salute to Samuel Salvatore, our great, great friend and patron. So
that's good stuff.
Well done. Well done.
All right. Our next email was from New York Tiger, who sent us a great one, who says, his message begins, "War Eagle, baby." He says, "Hey, Van and John, I really enjoyed the barbecue show. Great job as always. In fact, I was so inspired by your show, I got a bright and early Sunday morning and schlepped to Russ and Daughters here in Manhattan. I purchased a half pound of fresh lox and a quarter pound of pickle herring with onions and cream sauce. At my kitchen table, I piled the lox on a lightly toasted bagel, added a stickle of cream cheese with one slice of juicy tomato, one slice of crispy onion, and a generous heap of capers. I then noshed away while channeling the vibes of the upcoming Tiger football season. Here's what the lox and herring told me. Auburn and Alabama will both go to the Iron Bowl at 9-2, with the understanding being the winner is a lock for the playoffs and the loser will have an outside shot at getting in as well. So here's my question. If Auburn then lost to Alabama, would a 9-3 Auburn football team get into the 12-team playoff?" He says, "For the record, I really do consider it a moot point, as the Rugel I had for dessert told me Auburn is definitely going to beat Alabama, but hypothetically speaking, in a world where Rugel could somehow be wrong and Auburn did manage to finish 9-3, what do you guys think? Would the Tigers be in? War Eagle, baby, New York Tiger."
That was so good. Everything about that was entertaining. I have two immediate thoughts. One, a 9-3 Auburn team's not getting the playoffs, but because I think there's going to be several 10-2 SEC teams. Number two, there were quite a few nouns and verbs in his message that I didn't really understand, but that's just because I'm not from New York. So
there's nothing better than a really good bagel, man.
Good bagel's good. Yeah. But there was some noshing and some schmear, and I just, okay. And I don't know what that is, but I'm down with it.
I think there will be 3 or 4 teams in the 12 SEC teams in the 12-team playoff. I think you're correct that, if you're below 10-2, you're pushing it, right? Now, if you're below 10-2, you better have some wins over some big dogs to get in. Can't, like Auburn couldn't lose to Georgia and Alabama, and Oklahoma and get in.
No,
or Missouri or whatever. Like we got to have a couple of big scalps on to be able to get in.
we would need at least one of the losses to be to a very big team and be in like overtime.
Yes, agree.
But I think that the lowest record anybody that's going to get in the playoffs from the SEC is 10-2. I just think remember we had like 4 teams. At least I did. I know. I don't remember about you. I had 4 different teams that were 10-2.
And because teams don't all play each other, it's very possible.
Yes. That's right.
All right. Next email is from Bill Miner, who says, guys, I'm sure you enjoyed seeing Florida State lose to Georgia Tech over the weekend.
Oh,
he says, well, I presume so. I know you guys have a disdain for FSU, but not sure if you have the same for Tech since we used to play them so much. What other non-SEC schools do you enjoy seeing lose random games, Bill?
That's a good question. Here's the thing about Georgia Tech. For all that I should hate them, there's 2 reasons that I want. Well, there's 3. There's 3 reasons I should hate Georgia Tech. One, they were our ancient opponents and rivals going back to the 1800s. They're one of our oldest opponents. All those great stories from the Rec Tech pajama parade to the greasing the rails and making the train slide out of town and all that. There's that. There's the history. And then number 2, there's the fact that their fans are horrible, jerks, idiots, arrogant. I went to the Georgia Tech game in Grant Field in 2003, and it was one of the worst away experiences I've ever had as an Auburn fan. They were terrible the whole time, just insufferable. And they won, which was even worse. And then number 3, they've beaten us the last several times we played them. So when you add those 3 things together, I ought to hate them. But yet, you know what? I look at them as they're a team that ends up playing a lot of the teams I don't like, that I actively don't like, right? They play Georgia, go Georgia Tech. They play Florida State, go Georgia Tech, right? So it's kind of like I don't like them, but they tend to be the lesser of 2 evils almost every Saturday on TV. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I see them.
It's fair. I can't dislike Georgia Tech. A bunch of my relatives went there, cousins and uncles and people, and a bunch of my high school friends went there. And I actually went, I've been to several Georgia Tech games with them. I went to the Andre Bruce game and I sat in the Georgia Tech student section. So I can't dislike Georgia Tech. But
their basketball team was always entertaining too back in those days. We had fun watching them.
And so but to answer Bill's question, like who else do I like to see lose? I mean, if FSU is at the top, just because I hate them. I mean, it's not a contest. I think I don't mind seeing Texas lose. I'll be honest.
Mm-hmm.
They're a little pretentious, and I can't wait till some 7-year-old girl is doing horns down in their face as the bus is pulling away. Ohio State, yes, amen, 100% to that.
Most people would say Notre Dame.
It's fine, but I'm not losing any sleep about them. Really,
well,
that's
the thing. They're never a threat, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Mike.
Look, this is the thing, John. When Michigan or Ohio State or Oregon win or lose, it could affect us in the SEC. When Notre Dame wins or loses, it often has absolutely no consequence for anybody else but them, period. It just doesn't matter.
I mean, I would say like I don't cheer for them to lose, but I have enjoyed watching some Miami losses just because they've been so dumb over the years.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to ask you, though, if a tree falls in the forest and Notre Dame loses, did anybody hear it? Did it really happen? I don't know. Good question. That's a good question. I have to think about it, though, more deeply if there's any other teams that I really like seeing lose.
All right. And next question's from frequent question asker Josh Corbett, who says, John, Van, and Boris. It is here. The 2024 Auburn football season is here. Saturday, Auburn begins its 132nd football season.
Woo-hoo.
He said, I wanted to look at the job Hugh Freeze and staff have done on the recruiting trail at Auburn so far. When researching this, it looked like recruiting services Did track things prior to 2000. Did not really track things prior to 2000. So that's where we'll begin. The early signing is the reason that there were some split years after a certain point. Looking at the data, I think Freeze is doing a great job on the recruiting trail. His first class was the lowest, and yet he started behind the 8 ball in that class. He came within a few days of the early signing period and still managed to flip key target Falk and then hold on to key recruits like Cobb. I started watching Auburn head football and understanding things around 2002 mark. I was 11 and could start comprehending concepts. My question this week, y'all been watching longer, is Freeze and his staff doing things in recruiting that hasn't been done before? And if so, do y'all think that translates to on the field wins? Regal always. P.S. So glad Auburn football is back. Josh Corbett.
Amen. That's a really good question. Josh makes me think. He makes me ask of myself, Van, what have you been thinking about that? And my answer is, I realize now I've had certain unspoken assumptions, but I don't know if they're true or not. Like I've been assuming he's a relentless recruiter that doesn't give up. I've been assuming that the assistants are really persuasive, particularly Kelly and Crime Dog and all them. And I've been assuming that when they get on campus and they see our new multi-billion-dollar Wolto's, football complex, they're just like, oh, I got to be part of it. I've just kind of been assuming that we have a whole lot of pieces we can roll out right now that were being underutilized by the previous regime or two. Is that roughly what you're thinking, or is there something I'm missing, or what?
I mean, that's part of it. I think as a staff, I think they are working harder and smarter on recruiting efforts. I think they have the right behind the scenes people in the off the field roles, coordinating and executing recruiting. And I think they're making a huge difference, but I think a lot of it is about, elbow grease. And I think the effort, and I think the head coach is putting in more effort in recruiting than than any coach we've had since Pat and I honestly do. Like he is putting in probably more effort than any coach we've had. Because I think Dye recruited, but I think he didn't have to recruit the way you have to recruit now to keep up with the Alabamas and Georgias. So
that's right.
I think it's a result of a structured, focused, systematic effort, and that's the right way to do it. It makes it sustainable. And I think Freeze has done a good job identifying coaches who can, complement him and be good recruiters on their own. I mean, like we lost our defensive line coach to the NFL in the offseason, and I was worried, because we had a couple of commitments decommit at that point.
We did.
King Williams came on board, and now look where we are. Some of those guys have come back, and we get this guy from freaking Illinois. So it's, he's clearly proven he can handle it. So I think Freeze is an excellent recruiter. The other thing I think is recruiting is like a lot of other things. It's somewhat at times about momentum. And I think this staff understands that and can create momentum in ways like with Big Cat and kind of coordinating flips and announcements of players to get momentum and emotional momentum where other players want to commit. But also I think it's a thing of where this is something that is really counterintuitive to me as an outsider person from recruiting, that good players want to play with good players. In my mind, like if I'm a linebacker and they have one good linebacker committed, I want to go somewhere else. But that's not how it is. They want to go to the places where a bunch of other good players, in their class or the class before are, so they can win.
Yeah.
And so they can, all play together and do well. And so I think a lot of it is about commitment, that they got some of those, big guys a year ago to commit. And that kind of started a little bit of a landslide that now they can just keep pulling guys into and keep the momentum going. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's good.
No, but it says he has a great chart with some really good data in it. And I think the interesting thing to me is I thought Tuberville's classes would be higher. Again, like even 2002, 2003, 2004, 16th, 16th, 29th.
Wow.
17th. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
11th and 10th late, but then we're in the later period of Tuberville. So, and I think Gus did have a lot of top 10 classes. I mean, that's one of the things you look back at this, but it's also, we talked about the holes in the recruiting too. And that doesn't seem to be happening right now.
There are holes, and a lot of the players didn't pan out. It's like a lot of the players Terry Bowden recruited ended up being baseball players or going to prison. Kind of that was the two Terry's two attributes.
Well, and we made the running joke at the time, but it's the truth. Like, and it was one of the things I believe about recruiting now after living through the Terry Bowden years. I'll believe it when they show up on campus, because they would sign some big name guys that never made it too. Never
made it here. They'd either the grades, or they'd go play baseball, or they go to prison. That Terry could scout those prisons, man. If you were a good cocaine dealer, he'd get you a scholarship.
Listen, I'm very disappointed that he is no longer at Louisiana Monroe. We don't get to play him this year.
Oh, that would have been great. Good old Terry. Well, but I tell you, with Gus, it was more like we would sign these guys that were highly rated, and then they just would transfer. They just wouldn't pan out. They wouldn't be any good. Rock Thomas, that defensive lineman that's still like the greatest player we ever signed that never did a thing for us, Oh, man. So hopefully these guys that Freeze is bringing in are actual, they're actually going to pan out. That would be really nice for a change.
That's right.
All right.
Time for Around the SEC.
We got to get in the Auburn mobile because I got something to say. So set this up, and I've got something to add to it. So tell us.
So Auburn announced today they scheduled a future home football game against North Alabama, and now Auburn has either scheduled or played every football team in the state, a major team except Troy. Alabama has not played or scheduled an in-state school other than Auburn since the 1940s.
All right, two things. Well, three things. One, wow. Two, how have we not played Troy yet? They're like the best one.
They're also right down the street.
Yeah, they're like the most prominent team in the state that's not Alabama and Auburn, right? I think they are. Right? We've played Jacksonville, we played UAB, we played South Alabama. So I guess, and then the black schools, the traditional black schools, Alabama A&M, Alabama State. UNA, the Lions, right? They're a power. They've won a bunch of national championships up there in Florence, isn't it? I believe, up in the Tri-Cities area.
Yeah, and there's some former Auburn players or coaches on that staff. So
have been for years. So, but my question is, you say Alabama has not played an in-state school other than Auburn since the 1940s. And we had to twist their freaking arms to get them to play us. And then, I don't know if you've heard about this, John. There's this whole story about how we even got them to play in Auburn.
I heard that. I have heard that. What I wonder
it's
if I could only learn more about that topic, Van. Where can I go to learn more about that topic?
If you want to learn more, have I got a book for you, my friend, because you co-wrote it. Yeah, a book called First Time Ever. But one of the many interesting things that we learned, and I'm going to throw this into our little talk that we're going to give the Birmingham Touchdown Club after the Oklahoma game. One of the interesting things that we learned by doing that book was that while Alabama has not played an in-state college other than Auburn since the 40s, Alabama used to play the crap out of some high schools and athletic clubs. And in fact, I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to say it again at that meeting. This is the statistic that absolutely blew my mind. I am absolutely persuaded that all right, it's a fact that Auburn says we played our first game with Alabama in the second season, and Alabama of football, and Alabama swears no, that was the end of the first season, not the beginning of the second season, and it's at the time of year back then that it could be either one. Auburn says that was the first game of year 2, so we didn't play Alabama till year 2. Alabama says no, the Iron Bowl back then, as what they didn't call it that, was the last game of the first season. Here's why I think it matters to Alabama that it be the first game, the last game of the first season. Because the only other teams Alabama played in that first year, other than Auburn, if you count Auburn as playing them in that season, the only other games Alabama played were the Birmingham Athletic Club and a Birmingham High School, which means that if they cannot count the Auburn game as being a year 1 game, they didn't play intercollegiate football until the year after we started, 1893, not 1892. And Alabama does not want to say they started football a year after we did. Intercollegiate football.
Nope.
So therefore, we make, if they count the Auburn-Alabama game as being 1892, Auburn makes them have an intercollegiate schedule in the first year of the college football.
The other part of this thing about playing the in-state schools is you're paying them money. So if you were smart, you would want to keep the money in the state by playing an in-state school. I understand the risk, the downside. We've talked about this many times. But you're going to pay somebody, whatever, $800,000 for a paycheck game. You'd rather that money stay in the state academic system, and they have no interest in that. So
we also uncovered a letter from an internal communication within the University of Alabama, where their athletic director, their university president, whatever we're talking, their coach, and they were saying they didn't want to play us. Alabama did not want to play Auburn after that long layoff up through like 1949 or whatever. But the main reason they did was that they said this in their letter. They said Auburn is using this to beat us over the head and make us look like we're chicken, like we're scared. And we've got to play them now to prove we're not scared of them.
There you go.
That's why, more than anything, that and the fact that they thought there's the money aspect too, but we're not going to go into that here. Read the book. Read the book. You'll learn all this. It's really cool. All right. What's coming up this weekend in terms of schedule? Let's get through that and we'll get on out of here.
All right, here we go. Buckle up. Week 1 SEC schedule. We got 5 full days of football. Thursday, August 29th.
Oh, for a muse of fire.
There you go.
Thursday, August 29th, Arkansas Pine Bluff at Arkansas.
I'll take it. That's football.
Murray State at Missouri.
All right. Let's just say this. At least it's not Missouri at Murray State. Be thankful for small favors.
Friday, August 30th, Temple at Oklahoma, 7 p.m. We'll get a first look at the Sooners.
Hit me. Amen.
Saturday, August 31st. Here we go. Clemson, Georgia, noon from Atlanta, ABC.
Live from DragonCon.
Virginia Tech, Vanderbilt, Nashville, noon, ABC, ESPN. UT Chattanooga at Tennessee, 12:45 on the SEC Network.
These are horrible games, but I'm there.
Colorado State at Texas, 3:30 ESPN.
Why not?
Miami at Florida, 3:30.
Oh, now you're talking. Give me some more of that.
That's the good stuff. Old Dominion, South Carolina, 4:15 SEC Network.
Is it just me? Does Old Dominion sound like a malt liquor? Give me another bottle of that Old Dominion. Woo, baby.
Give me one of those 16-ounce Old Dominions. All right. Western Kentucky at Alabama, 7 p.m. ESPN. Van Plexico, do you know who the starting quarterback is for Western Kentucky?
Your starting quarterback from LSU by way of Auburn, by way of some Texas
State,
school,
I think.
Texas State Teachers College, is TJ Finley.
Ding, 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 ding. Listen.
Oh,
I can't wait to see TJ Finley light up Alabama. This is going to be awesome.
Hey, he almost beat him last time he played him.
I know it. Notre Dame at Texas A&M, 7:30 on ABC.
Same time.
The aforementioned Alabama A&M game at Auburn.
You almost we had it again. John is just absolutely dang determined that they are Alabama State, and he put Alabama State. We haven't really explained this, but you all through the show notes you had Alabama State, and I've said it like 15 times and had to take it out. So redo it.
It would be the best part is if Alabama A&M showed up and the coaches were like, "Wait, we scouted Alabama State."
Bulldog. What's a bulldog doing on there? It's supposed to be a hornet.
And then Southern Miss at Kentucky, 7:45, SEC Network. Sunday, September 1st, LSU versus Southern Cal from Las Vegas, 7:30 p.m. on ABC. This game is going to be wild.
There's something about a bunch of drunk Cajuns in Sin City on a Sunday. That is all kind. I need the Pope to come and like do an exorcism on that stadium because that's just all kinds of wrong.
Well, and he may need to exercise because there's two teams that can't play defense in a shootout in Las Vegas. I think it's going to be like 45-35.
Yeah, so. It's like a line I saw in a Bosch book today. That's like riding shotgun to the apocalypse, baby.
It's the truth. And again, like LSU may lose this game.
Oh, that would be something, wouldn't it? That would be something.
And then so this is games to, if you really want games to watch, I mean, that Miami, Florida game is to me the real headliner to watch this weekend. And then, but I picked out a couple other ones, the non-conference games. Thursday night is also North Carolina at Minnesota if you're desperate for football.
Yeah.
An opening weekend night. And that same night, North Dakota State at Colorado, I think. And then Saturday.
North Dakota State's going to win.
If Saturday at noon, while Georgia's beating Clemson by 3 touchdowns, you could flip over and watch Penn State at West Virginia on Fox.
That's those like two backyard brawl or something, isn't it?
Those two schools do not like each other.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. All right, kid. They're remarkably close together geographically, considering that one's in Pennsylvania and one's in West Virginia. If you didn't know your geography, you would think that West Virginia and Pennsylvania are that close together, but they're right next to each other.
Oh yeah,
right.
This border.
Yeah, so they're up each other's business. So, all right, that all sounds fine. It's not the greatest lineup, and I'm going to close with this, John. Here's the thing for me. At Dragon Con, I'm going to be swamped by Clemson and Georgia fans. They're going to be all over the place because every year there's a bunch of fans there all in the middle of everything. And when it's Georgia in particular, right, they're just going to be everywhere. And they're going to be like, what are all these people doing? Why is he dressed like a Klingon? So that's going to be a whole weekend of that right there. Yay.
That was pretty good.
It's going to be a whole weekend of that. Well, it's college football, and
whether you like it or not, learn to love it because it's the best thing going today.
Woo! Your final thoughts as the season begins.
Savor every Saturday. Before you know it, it's gone. It's fleeting. We have to appreciate it while we have it. Enjoy the games, and I can't wait.
That's it. All right. Our time is up, guys. Enjoy the weekend. Come see me at Dragon Con. Our time is up. We thank you for yours. War Eagle, John.
War Eagle, man.